Carlos Prado is from the Department of Philosophy at Queen's University, so a second Queen's University inductee following on from Frederick. Carlos's work has made major contributions both to advancing applied ethics and to bridging the divide between continental and analytic philosophy. And he is a specialist or an expert on the works of Michel Foucault. And so, Carlos, I'd invite you forward.
Is that about right? Okay, I'm an academic, split personality. I've done 18 books, roughly half on assisted suicide, roughly half on Foucault. And for a number of years, I've wondered, what's the connection? And I have now been cured by the media and US and Canadian corporations. Because what I think is going on now is that your lives, our lives, anybody over 60, are being seriously devalued by two phenomena that many people are taking in stride and which I think need a great deal of examination and reflection. One is media coverage of assisted suicide and euthanasia, the consistent coverage of it, which plays up the need, really, of some people to end their lives. The other phenomenon is corporate good works. Now, as government has retreated because of lack of money from various good works in terms of the support of various clubs and all sorts of things, the media, sorry, not the media, corporations have filled in. Now, I'm sure that if any of you watch television, you're familiar with the two examples I want to give you. These are just two of many. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola presses ads that worry people about obesity, particularly among young people. This is very strange for a company that produces a soft drink that makes people obese. So you think self-interested, right? Well, maybe, maybe not. Another one, Canadian Tire. What are they doing? They're pressing to get kids outdoors to play outside. They want them not to sit around on their rear ends watching television and texting one another. So you think, well, both of those things are good things, even though they may serve the interest of the corporations. Where Foucault comes in is the notion of power. Nobody's doing this, but it's happening. What's happening is that there is being portrayed a certain vision of what life should be like for people in their 60s and 70s. And the underlying message is, if this isn't your life, you ought to quit. You ought to get out of it, because you're not going to get this. Now, there are many, many, many commercials, for instance, for arthritis, that show a bunch of seniors having all kinds of fun with their little kids and all the rest of it. Somebody who's in a wheelchair or somebody who can barely move around sees that and thinks, I'm falling short. What's the point? Eventually, we're all going to come to see ourselves as not worth living in the sense of going beyond position where we can enjoy the life that is portrayed for us, because we're being given this little picture of how we should live. Susan, oh, never mind that. The point I'm trying to make here is that I have found suddenly that my interest in Foucault and my interest in assisted suicide and euthanasia have suddenly been brought together by the necessity, not necessarily to fight it. Maybe we ought to recognize that our lives ought to end at a certain point. That may be a good thing, but it's being done to us, not by us. That's the problem. Thank you.
I'm sure there will be questions in response to the very provocative and interesting talk that Carlos has given.
There's one over there.
Could you use the microphone, please?
Sure. You refer to the media presenting stories about assisted suicide, and if I understand you correctly, you're saying that the media are trying to get across the message when they discuss these cases that these are people who should accept their dying. So where is this coming from, though? I mean,
well, it's not that they're doing it deliberately. Again, this is the Foucauldian side of the thing. The Sue Rodriguez case was what started it all. Now, what the media is doing is they're not, as it were, saying, oh, these people should end their lives. What they're doing is they're getting the mileage out of the agony that somebody like Sue Rodriguez was undergoing, her attempt to get the Supreme Court to let her have assisted suicide and being denied and all the rest of it. It's just news, okay? But it's coming across a different way, because what they're doing is covering the problem. They're just showing you her particular difficulties. But we're seeing that as representing people in a certain situation. And we immediately read ourselves into it. It's very hard not to.
Yeah. Thank you. By the way, I agree with you.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? If not, we will move on to our next speaker. And soon the break
Thank you.
approaches. Thank you very much.